Okay, we're going to go ahead and get started. It's a little bit warmer in this room than it is in the other big room, so I'm very grateful for that. My name is Jennifer Putzi. I'm a professor at William and Mary, and I'm going to be chairing this session. So I'm going to introduce you briefly to all of the panelists and then let them get to it. I'm going to keep everybody to 15 minutes to make sure we have some time for conversation. So I'll kind of signal you if at about 14, just so you know it's time to kind of wrap up. Our first presenter is Joy Jackson. Joy is in the Office of Civic and Community Engagement here at the college. She's also a new farmer. I think you said been farming for 3 years. Is that right? And her business is called the Rooted in Joy Flower Farm, which I think is fabulous. Kiana Wilkerson is presenting second. She graduated with a BA in History and Anthropology from William and Mary, and her MA in History with a Public History Graduate Certificate is from Virginia Tech. She's currently the Descendant Research Associate of the Menoken Foundation. In this position, Kiana researches the enslaved people at Menoken, the local Black community, and engages with their descendants. She works closely with the Menoken Descendant Engagement Team and the Descendant Collective. When not reading comics or writing, she enjoys spending time with her cat, Walt, her family, and her friends. October Grace Kamara is currently a PhD student at the University of Illinois at Chicago. She's continuing her research on Southern Black Power movements that she started while earning her MA in Public History at Middle Tennessee State University. She also works for the, Roberson Project? At the University of the South on the Locating Slavery's Legacies Archive, which collects lost cause and Confederate memorials on college campuses. Her research interests include Black power, Black feminism, Black queer movements, the American South, public history, museums, and digital history. And finally, Jessica Elaine Ellison, who will join us virtually, is a Seattle-based dramaturg, theater artist, adjunct professor of theater at University of Houston downtown. Jessica received their Bachelor of Arts in Anthropology from William and Mary and their Master of Arts in Theater Studies from the University of Houston. Their artistic practice seeks to uplift stories written by and for Black queer communities, while also bringing anthropological theory into conversation with theater studies. And I've got some more details, but I'll turn now to the panel, and we'll start with Joy.
All right, good afternoon, everyone. How are you today? Good. All right, so I have a confession to make. My name is Joy Jackson, and I'm a recovering academic. Okay, 20 years ABD for history. I had studied Latin American history and focused on African diaspora. And a part of my process has been really finding more of what my name is, Joy. And so that's how I ended up being a farmer and getting into flower farming. So today, while we are at a university and the Lemon Symposium is about, in some degree, the academic enterprise and what's happening cognitively within us and how we come to understand these things. For my bit today, I'm going to ask that we just have a distinguishing experience between what we are cognitively experiencing and what we are somatically experiencing, as well as what we are emotionally experiencing. So that's a little bit different because when we come to university and as we're growing up, there's so much focus on what's going on in our head, which is wonderful, but I'm going to invite us to drop down into our bodies and see what's happening there that we may not be always paying attention to. And as we get started today, I'm going to ask everyone there's some flowers that are in front of you or somewhere close to you, to just look at the textures there and see what calls to you. See what calls to you and pick one flower. Now, even you all definitely feel free to go and get yourself a flower. You will notice that none of them are what we will consider focal flowers, or no roses or lilies or any of those big focal flowers. But if you just find yourself a flower that speaks to you. Don't think about it. I know this is really hard, but just feel into it. Feel into it. See what calls to you. And as you select your flower, I'm going to give us a framework to help us move through this experience, okay? Let me see, where are my controls here? Wait, am I not doing this right? How do I advance this? Tell I don't do a lot of presentations. Let me see, here we go. All right. So the framework that I'm gonna give us today really comes from Peter Levine, who has done a lot on somatic experiencing and trauma. But it has been amended by Resma Menakem. He has a book out called My Grandmother's Hands that really focuses on racial healing and trauma. So in a lot of somatic research, they're focused on different types of trauma, but race isn't necessarily one of those. And so to do that, I'm going to ask that as we're dropping into our body, that we kind of notice some of these things that are up here on the screen. So the vibe, and a vibe is what's happening within you or what's happening here in the space as we are here together. It could be a quickening that's within you or a calmness that's in the space. So that's what I mean. And it could be, or it could be heavy. It could be any number of textures, okay? Images that come to you as we're asking questions or just exploring this together. Then of course, meaning making. How are we coming to understand this? How have we understood something and how is that changing for us? All right, behaviors. Going to be impulses for us to act. And it may be an impulse that you have that you refuse to let yourself do. So also pay attention to that impulse. If you're like, oh, I have the impulse to cry, but I'm like, I'm not going to do that, right? So you want to pay attention to all of those things. Your affect, which of course are your emotions, sensate. So are you having the hair on your arm standing up? Do you feel a drop in your stomach? Is there a lump in your throat? Those are all things that are telling us something. And we may not know what it's saying yet, but we do want to pay attention to what's happening. Because eventually, the more that we pay attention, we'll come to know what those things mean. All right, and then the last one is imagination. And this may be something that kind of happens at the end of our process or when you leave here, but it's what's next? Like what's possible that wasn't possible before? Okay. Are there any things that are coming up for you now that you questions or anything? All right. So as we do that, if you could bring out a piece of pen and a paper. So this journey is, we packing lunch. You know what I'm saying? We got the clothes on our back. We need pen, paper, flour, and ourselves, and we have enough, and we have each other. So it's going to be enough to get us to our destination. As we are going through this process, you might hear me say, because in my training, we use the term scribe, which is journaling. So when you feel inclined, I want you to scribe. I might have some moments where I'm also telling you to take a moment, because I'm just going to leave this up here the whole time. And you may have some of these things, not all of these may come up for you, or you may not be able to feel into it, but you may have 2 or 3 of them that are like really strong. So those things that are really strong, pay attention to it. It doesn't have to be all of this. And you don't need to make meaning of it. If the meaning comes to you, it's fine. I'm going to use a word. It's kind of like, you know how people, when you're doing a writing, English people in the room, this is just a brainstorm. We're not doing brainstorm. We're doing like a emotion storm, maybe. I don't know. A heart storm. So just jot it down. It doesn't need to make sense. You just need to record it. Okay. The last session I was listening to outside, and it was someone talking about agriculture and some of the things that come up when you think about agriculture. So I want us to think about what comes up for you when we think about agriculture in this land that we're on right now. and all that has come with that. Who did the agriculture, under what conditions, at any point in time. And take a note and scribe on what's coming up in your body and emotionally. All right, gonna give you all 30 more seconds. All right. So now that you have down what's down on your page, if you could look at what's there, and then I want you to put a sound to what you have on your page. I don't want a word. This is pre-verbal, right? So we want to think in certain situations, sounds were what we use to communicate, right? Or what you are just expressing what's in your body. So I just want you to figure out a sound that would emote what you have written on your page. Just what comes up. Let's not think about it. I know that's really hard. So, like the wind, I'm going to take my hand and I'm going to go like this. It's going to symbolize the wind. And as I do that, from this end to the next, I want everybody to give voice to your sound. Okay? You ready? Everybody's like, this is really bizarre. It's bizarre, right? Especially at a university. I love it. All right. Let's try that one more time. One more time, because we got just a few more people that they didn't feel like they were part of the group. So we want them to know they are part of the collective here, right? Because we are collectively healing. So we're going to try that one more time. All right, here comes the wind. Yes. Okay. Right? So there's something that comes out with that. And as we all were experiencing that, there was a certain vibe, right, in the space that we were experiencing that together. And what did that mean, what I was hearing? Okay, so that is about agriculture. Now, if you all can take a minute, because I know I just did some really weird stuff here, is talk to your neighbor real quick about what that experience was like for you. So just take like 1 minute. I know I have 15 minutes, y'all. I gotta make the most of it. So we'll take like 2 minutes and talk about that experience, like what came up for you. I'll be your partner. Yes.
Okay. Okay, well, like initially though.
Yeah.
It was kind of more just like.
Yes.
Like, that's what I can figure out, and then I got like, is that hard?
No, but you know what? A growl is something that comes up often in somatic work. Yeah, it really does. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Because it's something also that if we don't feel free to express our life.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? It feels complete.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. All right, how was that? I'm pretty sure you felt like you needed to be with us, right? You needed to kind of talk that through a little bit. All right, so now I want to ask you a question. If we're thinking about agriculture, we could not separate agriculture from this land without capitalism,
Mhm.
white body supremacy, all of those things. It's, in the farming world, we'll say it's intersown. So it's intersown with the other things that are there, right? So we got corn, we got a little bit of capitalism, we got some beans, we got a little bit of white body supremacy,
Mhm.
right? You can't, it's so ingrained that if you want to tease it out, you really have to take some time, right? And that's also in the land. But if I asked you the question, how would it change if I said, what is your relationship to land? How are you able to kind of tease those things out? What comes up for you if I say, what's your relationship to land? As opposed to how do you think about agriculture? So just take a minute and feel into that. And don't forget the VIMBASI. In the session right before this, Dr. Thomas talked about land and how a lot of people have a negative relationship with it. And something she said, I had to write it down. I was listening outside the door. And she said, the land didn't do it to you.
Mhm.
The land didn't do it, right? And if we think about capitalism and white body supremacy, one of the things that comes up, idea that's intrinsic in that is not being enough. Okay, so we're letting go of that. Now take the flour that you have. Feel it, the texture, smell it, take it all in, right? Think about where it came from, the land. Think about all the things that live in the land and the ecosystem, right? The community that's there. How does that resonate with you? How can we use this to transform our relationship with the land? Now, if I had time, and I've just been put on notice that I don't have time, I would, have us dig into this a little bit more. But what I want to ask you is, what is now possible that wasn't possible when we started? And if you were to put a sound out now, with touching and feeling and being in communal space with everyone in the ecosystem here, and what could be generated here through the conversations, what is possible in the healing with your relationship with land? How can it look now going forward, whether you want to farm or you just want to have more flowers in your life, or you're thinking about where your food came from, right? So there's a lot to pull out in terms of our relationship to the land, but also how we can move forward in healing together, because I do think it takes us doing it together to get to that next space. And thank you for exploring with me, even though this is an academic context in a very non-academic way. Oh, and I forgot that this is just my contact info.
Hi, everyone. Good afternoon. Again, my name is Kiana Wilkerson. I do want to preface this, my presentation is not going to be as nice as that one that we just went through, but it'll be hopefully a little exciting because we get to talk about comic books for a bit. But my presentation is titled "Everything's Going to Be All Right: Representation and Healing Through the Brotherman and Jonathan Fox Comics." So again, you heard a little bit of my bio. So I am the Descendant Research Associate at the Minokan Foundation, which is a historic home / ruin of one of the signers of the Declaration of Independence, Francis Lightfoot Lee. But I'm here to present my own research. So if you want to talk about Minokan things at a later date, feel free to hit me up. I will love to talk about my work there as well. So this presentation is just a section of my master's thesis about Black representation during the Black Age of Comics. It discusses how Black independent creators decided to enter the field of comic books. Their goal was to create more positive, accurate, and complex portrayals of the Black community. And although comic books are often seen as childish forms of entertainment, they influence portrayals of communities that they're depicting. Literally, Captain America's first issue was him punching Hitler. So there are political, social, and cultural commentary that comes into comic books that we can't ignore. This presentation is intended to show how Black creators reclaim these portrayals for better representation and the reaction from some members of the Black community during this period. Okay, so during the 1990s, the comic book industry was going through a significant change. DC had just killed off Superman, and Marvel was creating various title arcs about famous characters such as Spider-Man and the X-Men series. Black characters such as Luke Cage, the Falcon, Black Lightning, Black Panther, the rest. Although popular, were not seen as Black enough to some members of the Black community because they were often written by white writers and drawn by white artists. To some, these characters also were seen as Black stereotypes, such as the Mammy, Jezebel, Sapphire, the Black Brute, and the Savage. There was a desire for representation of a more Black superheroes that actually looked like the community that they represented and felt more accurate and authentic. So these independent Black creators in the 1990s wanted to fill that void and inadvertently started a Black comic cultural movement. This is, remember in the 90s and the late 80s, there is a big push of Black-led television shows and sitcoms like Living Single, The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air, and then we have Black-led movies and directors such as Spike Lee films and other films of that nature. So the Black Age of Comics started in 1990 with the publishing of the Brotherman series, which I will discuss more in depth in the next slide. But the term was coined by Turtel Only, which is a Black comic creator himself, which is the man in the middle of this slide right here. And the two pictures framing him are pictures from his own comic called Nog. So, Brotherman, the Dictator of Discipline. So Brotherman was created by three brothers, David Sims, who now goes by Dewal Anawi, Guy Sims, and Jason Sims. The brothers had always been interested in comic books since they were younger and believed that the Black characters that they were seeing before did not accurately portray the Black community. They created the character of Brotherman to be a Black superhero different from the others. So he wasn't just a Superman type, he was actually powerless, and his alter ego was a lawyer who was trying to correct injustices on one side of the law and Brotherman on the other side. He had empathy for his community, and he was teaching also the community to take care of each other. So it was a big push of seeing if something was going wrong with the community, helping each other out. Again, these are the brothers here. This is two brothers. Well, their names are not spelled right in this newspaper that I just see, but there is David and Jason Sims on that page. So because of the events like the Black Expo and other local marketing strategies, the series was well received by members of the Black community, allowing for the Sim brothers to actually quit their jobs and pursue comics full time. Since they were fully independent, which means they weren't releasing under the Marvel or DC label, the brothers had to distribute their comics to local Black bookstores, churches, and other Black organizations to maintain relevancy. They were able to ship their comics directly to readers too from their home in Texas. They desired to keep full control of their series and the rights surrounding it. So that was a big push, because at the other hand of this kind of Black Age of Comics, Milestone Media, which is a big, another Black age of Black independent creators creating Black comics. I know I just said Black, like, I'm so sorry. But they were actually being distributed by DC Comics. So a lot of these independent publishers did not consider them on the same level as independency. So Brotherman also lasted for about 11 issues. So again, this is where the title of my presentation comes from, that everything's going to be all right. And here are some pictures of the series to really show the style and the kind of artistic depiction of the characters from the Sims brothers. So the next series we're going to talk about is Jonathan Fox. So Mariah Graphics' Jonathan Fox was created by John McClane in 1993 and lasted for about 3 issues. McClane wanted to design a Black character that broke away from the superhero stereotype as well, and create a Black cultural environment with high chase thrills and chills. So he's more like a James Bond type. So the series is actually geared towards teenagers rather than a younger audience. And the titular character, Jonathan Fox, was kind of like a suave Black secret agent, which is really cool. So these are the first 2 issues, the covers of the first 2 issues of Jonathan Fox. And these are some pictures, some screenshots of the different panels, again, just really depicting how these Black creators are seeing the Black community and drawing it and illustrating it. So, examining both of these series show how comic books are a powerful art form and representation, allowing Black creators to write and design how they are depicted. These creators were able to combat previous stereotypes through storytelling, making space for Black perspectives in a predominantly white industry. With this new storytelling, these Black series were received positively by many members of the Black community. So this slide is dedicated to a couple of different articles published about the impact of these series, as you can see. And most of these articles were found in the New Pittsburgh Courier, the Chicago Tribune, Michigan Chronicle, the Washington Post, the Los Angeles Times, and then the Philadelphia Tribune. I know that's not all in here, but these main 3 here are the Philadelphia Tribune, and then we have one from the Black Enterprise magazine, and then we have another one for the Chicago Tribune. So I'm going to read a couple excerpts from some of these articles to show the need for better Black representation in comics and the kind of reactions to these new comics. So from the Jonathan Fox one, so the Black Spring owned reality comics, there is a quote that says, most African American people want to read about themselves no matter what the genre is. And this is from a owner of an Afro-centric bookstore in Chicago. And she says, with traditional comics, that wasn't possible before. And the next one I'm going to read is from the one that says, Brotherman comic strip hero is in the spotlight, that says, most of these have been pretty crummy, referring to previous comic book representation, from Kim Thompson, an editor at the Comics Journal, a Seattle-based trade publication. They've been written and drawn by white suburban guys who have watched too many Superfly movies. The conception has been so bad that the character comes out either as a Black stereotype or someone whose Black side is ignored completely. So again, there was a big need and push for this. So particularly during its run, the Brotherman comics continued to reach a wider Black audience, including Black people in the comic book industry. So Marcus McLaurin, the only Black editor at Marvel Comics at the time, acknowledged the positive impact the series had on the Black community, especially the younger generation. So he's quoted in a news article that says, Brotherman gives kids a positive Black character who's doing things that are socially relevant. Michael Davis, an illustrator from DC Comics during this time, also sang the praises of Brotherman in a 1991 article from the Washington Post. And he there states that he likes the series so much that his art students that he's teaching, he makes them go buy the comics at their local comic book store. And we even have some parent testimonies that agree that the comics were having positive effect on their children. One even stated in an article from the Los Angeles Times that I'm a parent with a 2-year-old, and to the extent that I can provide my son with images that are positive, that look like him, he'll be a healthier member of society because he'll develop a positive appreciation for his African-American status. If he can't appreciate who he is, it will be hard for him to appreciate others. So again, just really showing the impact, especially Brotherman, to the Black community and learning more and getting more into comic books. So there are other articles that showcase the people in the industry and readers believe in these Black independent publishers and wanted them to succeed. Many expressed that these stories are needed urgently to show readers different versions of the Black community. The Black community could be in charge of their own representation and start to heal from the previous negative stereotypes. So these are just other Black comics during this age. I can't go into so much detail about them. So along the series that was mentioned earlier, several other Black-owned companies sprang up during the 1990s. Again, I talked about Milestone Media. There's Ania, Kemet Comics, Up Comics, Blackjack, Dave Brown Studios, and others. They all focused on the voices of the Black and other ethnic communities, as well as Black topics and political movements such as the LA protests, gang violence, drug trafficking, and homelessness. So Ania is actually the middle picture here. Those are the comic books characters of those series. Ania is actually an association of different Black independent publishing companies. So it's not just one full one, there's multiple ones under one association. And then Blackjack is the other one on the third. So this article here, though, is about Ania's and the association. So the association was a huge part of the Black Age comics. And according to a report in this article, that during the 1990 through 1993, the comic had about 23% of sales in the market, which, if you know anything about comics, that's a huge thing because most of the sales of comics are just DC and Marvel. They own about 70%. So if they had 23% in just 3 years, that's a huge accomplishment. And it also shows that they were capturing a wide audience during this period. But however, Ania does have its share of controversies, but I can't go into in-depth for that presentation, so I might have to present that somewhere else. So these are just, again, other covers of this age. So you can really see the differences in the artists and how the coloring and how people wanted to show the Black community. After the 1990s, there was a sharp decline in the comic book industry. Basically, there was an oversaturation in the market and the comic book industry basically crashed. It is interesting that now comics are becoming popular again because Marvel and DC were basically on the verge of bankruptcy in the 1990s. And so that means that these independent publishing companies ended kind of abruptly. So that's why Jonathan Fox only had 3 issues and Brotherman only had 11. But Brotherman, as you can see, and Jonathan Fox have been able to make a comeback in the last decade. So in 2016, the Sims brothers collaborated again and produced an all-new story for Brotherman called Brotherman Dictator Discipline Revelation. So this is a more modern and younger tale of the story of Brotherman. And also the entire 1990 series, the 11 issues, are included in the National Museum of African American History and Culture and accessible online. So if you want to read it, you can go find it. That's how I did my research. So I'm very thankful that they were able to put that online and be accessible. And then John McClane released another Jonathan Fox series in 2020. So again, this is showing the continuation of these comics and show the legacy of the 1990s movement. And despite this short age, this movement was one of the reasons the comic book industry started incorporating more diverse stories, characters, and hires. The Black Age of Comics allowed for members of the Black community to come together and create their own stories and representation. These stories were created with joy and care, which you can see in the two series I discussed earlier. These creators worked hard to reclaim the image of Black characters from past stereotypical portrayals to provide a more positive and authentic image. So the rest of my research provides a more in-depth and critical look at this representation, also at how it relates to gender, because you always have to add a layer of how Black women are represented in these comics as well. And that's a whole nother issue. But that, again, that's for another time. So I hope this presentation sheds some light on the Black independent comic book industry community and their goals, as well as their series and works as being an example of Black empowerment and healing. So that is my presentation.
I'm going to use the microphone because sometimes people tell me I talk too low. So just to make sure that everyone can hear me. So hello, my name is October Grace Kimura, and I'm going to be talking about the Chattanooga Black Panther Party, speaking of comics. I just want to talk first about how I got into this work. So like it was mentioned in my bio, I got my master's in public history at Middle Tennessee State University in Murfreesboro, Tennessee, which is about an hour away from Nashville, if you're familiar. And during my first semester there, they asked me to write a historiography on any topic. And for people who are not history people, that's just the history of what historians have said. If you're in a different like sociology field, it's like a lit review. So I'm just supposed to read books and say, historians have said this. And the topic I chose was the Black Panther Party. And I was a little disappointed in the historiography that I read because although amazing literature has been written about the Black Panther Party, a lot of it has focused on Oakland, California, where they started, and northern cities like Chicago and Seattle and New York. And I'm a military brat, but my family is mostly from North Carolina. And so I wanted to know about Black radicalism that was happening in the South. And so that's when I decided to write my thesis about this topic. I was in Tennessee, started doing some researching and found that there were actually 3 Black Panther chapters in Tennessee, one in Memphis, one in Nashville, and one in Chattanooga. And I was in Murfreesboro about an hour and a half away from Chattanooga, so it seemed like the perfect time to go there and do some in-person research about the Black Panther Party there. So my goal for doing this project was to regionally diversify the historiography of Black power in the United States and to see if there were any regional differences in the way that they practice Black power ideology in the South compared to northern or western cities. And I wanted to make the primary sources that I was finding more accessible to the public. So also mentioned in my bio, I was working for the Wilkerson project, still do, at this time, and we were building a separate database and learning a lot about digital history. And so I took the things that I learned from that job and applied it to my research and built a digital archive cataloging all the primary sources that I found while doing this research. And then I also wanted to show the impact of Black power ideology locally and regionally. So for some background on who the Chattanooga Black Panthers are, they actually started as an entirely separate Black activism group. There was a group called the Black Knights, which was started in Memphis in 1968. 3 days after MLK was assassinated, so that kind of tells you the climate that was happening at that time. And it was started by this man here, Warren Lewis. You can see there he's on the Jay Leno show because he was one of the barbers that cut your hair with fire. So, yes, he got really regionally famous for that. And you can see his barbershop here is where we started the Black Knights and where they met every month. And this got news was spread about this organization to Chattanooga by a man named Ernest Wilkins. Ernest Wilkins saw all the work that was being done by the Black Knights in Memphis and brought it to Chattanooga and started the Chattanooga chapter of the Black Knights, which eventually turned into the Chattanooga chapter of the Black Panthers. Sometime in 1971 is when they would have changed their affiliation and their logo. And they also switched chairmen. So Ernest Wilkins was still heavily involved in the organization, but he stepped down, and Ralph Moore, this guy here, ended up becoming the chairman of the Chattanooga Black Panthers. And Ralph Moore was a Vietnam vet. He came home from Vietnam and went to school in California. And he actually started working with the original Black Panther chapter there on the being the layout artist for their Black Panther magazine. And so he kind of brought that ideology home with him when he finished school and came back to Chattanooga. Not that the Black Knights were already practicing a lot of Black power ideology. I just think with Ralph Moore coming and having that experience working with the BPP in Oakland, that's what probably caused their change and shift of affiliation and logo. And so what did the Black Panthers do? Well, they started their own independent newspaper. They sold it for 10 cents every week. And they wanted this newspaper to be a forum for the Black community to use to express their opinions and needs and desires. And so it became a place where people published poetry, where people published op-eds. You can see they wrote comics. This very funny comic here is the Fire and Police Commissioner and the police force drawn as pigs, which is a very common reference for Black Panther ideology. And you can see it looks like Jesus is protesting, so they are willing to shoot him, which kind of shows you how they felt about their police and their institutional government in Chattanooga. They also did survival programs, again, very common in Black power ideology. So they did things like free school breakfast, sickle cell testing, food and clothing donations, and they were fighting back against the Model Cities Project, which was an urban renewal project under Lyndon B. Johnson. And so obviously they existed, they did a lot of work in their 11 years of being around in Chattanooga, and they actually also heavily influenced local history. One such story is Brainerd High School. So Brainerd High School was a local high school in Chattanooga, founded in 1960. So even though they were founded in 1960, that would have been 6 years after Brown v. Board, they were an all-white school. And you can see they use heavy Confederate memorialization in their school branding. So their mascot was the Brainerd Rebel, which looks like a US Confederate rebel. They broke through the Confederate flag at every football game and waved the Confederate flag at every football game. And they also opened every football game with the Dixie song. It was their school song. So, and they kept these Confederate memorials despite integrating in 1967. So the first Black class of students came in 1967, and they did not get rid of their Confederate memorials and their Confederate flag. This obviously angered Black students, and they had been protesting since they integrated the school to get the Confederate flag removed. And it really came to a head October 3rd of 1969. During a football game at Brainerd, about 30 to 40 Black students rushed into the middle of the field during halftime. They were waving the Confederate flag and they lit it on fire as a sign of protest to have the Confederate flag removed. This caused some anger in the stands, and so white parents, faculty, and students rushed into the middle of the football field and started fighting the Black students. Eventually, the police were called. Only the Black students ended up being arrested, of course. And one young Black girl, unfortunately, around the age of 14 or 15, she was paralyzed from the neck down due to the violence that happened at that football game. So the school kind of realized that they had a race issue and that they had to find some way to fix it. So they created a school board group of students, both Black and white, to come up together with some ways to ease racial tensions at Brainerd High. And the student board recommended that they get rid of the Confederate flag, but we'll hold a design contest for a new flag. So that way it will be student chosen and student designed. We'll keep the Brainerd Rebel, but we're going to recolor it so it looks less like a US Confederate soldier. And we'll keep the Dixie song because they loved the Dixie song. But we'll slice it up with other songs, create a new fight song that's kind of a melody of Dixie and other songs. And so they presented these ideas to the school board, and they were going to have a school-wide vote where every student at Brainerd High would get to vote on whether or not they wanted to accept these changes. But before the vote could happen, white students were mad about the changes that were being offered and they walked out. So 400 white students walked out of Brainerd to protest the suggestions that the student board had made. Even though, again, it didn't happen unanimously, they would have been able to vote on it, but they wanted to show how much they wanted to keep the Confederate flag and symbolism at their school. About 300 of them ended up returning back into the school after about 20 minutes of protesting. But about 100 got into their cars and drove down the street and paraded with Confederate flags, waving them around until they got to the front of Kirkman Technical High School, which is a couple miles away, where a PTA meeting was about to happen about everything that had happened on October 3rd. And white parents at this PTA meeting really showed that they agreed with the majority of white students in how they viewed the keeping of the Confederate symbols at Brainerd. And so one of the white parents, McClellan Cook, ended up giving this speech during the PTA meeting, or this is part of his speech at the PTA meeting, which I'm just going to read it to you because it kind of speaks for itself. So he says, quote, "The acceptance by white students of Black students at Brainerd has been a credit to the school, the parents, and the community. They have accepted Black students as individuals on their own merit as individuals. The Black students who cooperated to help build a better school won the acceptance and respect of the white students. This is a remarkable achievement of which we should all be proud. This acceptance and spirit of cooperation has now been changed solely by the change in attitude of a large number of Black students. Their attitude has changed from cooperation to one of hostility and hate. We are vitally concerned when events and attitudes develop that threaten to destroy an excellent school." Yes, so like parents were agreeing with white students, they didn't see a need to change the Confederate flag, and they thought that Black students should just stop being so hateful, and that would ease all of the racial tensions at Brainerd. And so then the vote was canceled.
Oh, man.
The superintendent of the Chattanooga schools, Lori, decided that, you know what, this is obviously a community issue. Parents care, faculty care. So we can't just leave it up to the students at Brainerd to vote on this. So now there was no one pushing for the Confederate flag to be removed from schools. And it just caused more and more racial tension at Brainerd High. You can see they actually had to institute a curfew. That's how much protesting was happening. Anyone under the age of 21 had to be off the streets by 7 p.m. There was a bunch of fights happening at the school, students being constantly arrested, and the school would constantly open and close. So an incident would happen, they would close the school to try to ease things, open back up in 2 days, something else would happen, and they'd have to close again. And a lot of this was being covered by white media, telling white parents and white students' side of the story. And it was really upsetting Black students that they weren't being heard in this, in the riots that were happening, that their point of view about why they wanted the Confederate flag removed was not being told. And so that's where the BPP comes in, because since they had their own newspaper and their own independent press, they ended up allowing Brainerd students to write op-eds about what was happening at Brainerd in their newspaper. So that way they could try to combat some of the media bias that they were facing. And, you know, really became a network of care for the Black students to have an outlet to tell their side of the story of what was happening at Brainerd. And this is another one of those articles and op-eds written by a student. And you can see the Brainerd rebels are dressed up here in KKK regalia, and they're saying there will be no compromise. They were not going to stop the fight to get rid of the Confederate flag at Brainerd. And so finally, about a year and a half later, the school tries again. They put together, this time, a parent advisory board instead of a student advisory board, made up of 6 white parents and 3 Black parents. And they actually make the exact same recommendations that the student board did. But this time, the school board just accepted them unanimously. They didn't put it for a vote. And the Confederate flag was finally removed as the Brainerd school flag. People still fought against this. One student came to school with a Confederate flag pinned to their shirt. They were kicked out of school for the day since they refused to remove it. And so that student then sued the school for infringing on their First Amendment rights to free speech. They did not win that case, but it really shows you how far some white students and parents were willing to go to keep the Confederate flag. Now, I find all of this a bit ironic because in 1981, Brainerd actually changed their school mascot to a Black Panther. This is in part due to all of the wonderful activism from the students in the 70s, but also there was a huge demographic change in Brainerd and in the neighborhood surrounding Brainerd. It shifted to majority Black, and so that they therefore had the votes to get rid of the Brainerd Rebel. And they chose the Brainerd Panthers because of its strength and resilience. Now, obviously, the class of 71 is highly removed from the class of 81, but I think it's really easy to say that Black power ideology is still floating around at this time, still popular at this time, and that there is a political reason for why they would have chosen the Panther as their school mascot. And it's still their school mascot to this day, has been for the last 40 years. Except that when I went to Brainerd to visit the school, none of the students knew what I was talking about. They had not learned about this history.
Wow.
They are not taught about the Brainerd School riots in their history classes. And anytime I actually talked to any person in Chattanooga about the research that I was doing, they had no idea that the Black Panther Party chapter had been in their city. People who had been born and raised in Chattanooga all their life. And this is largely due to the fact that the memorialization that they focus on is focused on civil rights leaders. A lot of their local civil rights leaders have streets named after them, have local college buildings named after them. And even though the Black Panthers would have worked with civil rights leaders and worked at the same time as civil rights leaders, they're not memorialized and remembered in the same way. And that's why I started the archive. I'm running out of time, so I don't get to show it to you fully, unfortunately. But I do have a QR code if you want to go to it. It's archive.southernblackpower.com. And I'm hoping that this will just be a model. I want to move past Chattanooga and look at other Southern Black Power movements in the South. And hopefully, again, make them more accessible to the public in a way that's not being done currently in K through 12 education and in public memory. So thank you.
All right, Jessica, you can go ahead.
Great. Hello, everyone. Sorry, I'm just going to start sharing my screen. Hello, hello. Okay. Did that screen share work? It doesn't look like it's. Okay, great. Hi, everyone. My name is Jessica Elaine Ellison. I use they, them, and she, her pronouns, and I'm so honored to virtually be here with you all today. You would think I would know how to easily do screen share by now, but you know, it is what it is. So I'm really happy to be with you all today. The idea for this research about communal care on theatrical stages actually started about 8 years ago when I was involved in the theater program at William and Mary. And it was here that I unfortunately learned that theater as an industry and as an institution is really built upon and perpetuates multiple levels of harm to Black theater members and practitioners. So the baseline definition of communal or community care that I work with is the practice where individuals come together to provide support and assistance to one another. For Black communities and many other communities of the global majority, this concept and this practice is nothing new. right? For centuries, Black people have kind of queered the white heteronormative idea of the nuclear family and have relied heavily on extended family and friends for various types of community support. Black queer people specifically have also done a lot of work to promote ideas of community care, especially in the creation of elaborate kinship structures, such as ballroom and house culture. Ballroom houses are intended to be safe spaces for those who have been ostracized from both white queer spaces as well as straight Black spaces. And they really become domestic sites that are created for survival, essentially. And when we look broadly at community care and what that entails, it also incorporates aspects of mutual aid. And I love the definition that queer lawyer and activist Dean Spade gives of mutual aid. And they define mutual aid as a radical collective care. So mutual aid is that collective care that is radical in nature because it often subverts what is intended to just be under capitalism. And as the name implies, it's also something that is mutually beneficial. In the US, mutual aid has a really historical practice within Black communities, and it goes back all the way to slavery and before slavery as well. Free African Society was one of the first really documentable Black mutual aid societies in the United States. It was founded in 1787 by two freemen, and it was in the Philadelphia area. And the society was established to provide financial and emotional support for Black people with a focus on widows and impoverished people. And over time, the power and the scope of mutual aid organizations began to grow and took many shapes. So I actually won't talk about it too much since we just had really great presentations that kind of played in addressed this as well. But the Black Panther Party was an organization that also leaned on mutual aid and saw mutual aid as something that was necessary for Black self-determination as well as liberation. And as mutual aid organizations continue to grow and expand over time, the aid in mutual aid began to take many forms. So it could be emotional aid, financial aid, any kind of aid such as that. So in my research, I explore examples of communal care on stage in the American theater, and specifically representations of community care and mutual aid that are presented by Black women and femmes. I make that distinction. If you're unfamiliar with the term femme, I'm referring to the expansive identity of people from various gender identities who purposefully and intentionally present in what they consider to be a feminine manner. And my focus remains with Black women and Black femmes, as their work is most able to resist representations of misogynoir and transmisogynoir. Misogynoir refers to the type of misogyny that is specifically directed towards Black women, and transmisogynoir is similar to the previous term, but is specific to the misogyny that Black trans women face. And there are, of course, a lot of Black men playwrights, many of whom have queer identities themselves, who also resist playing into misogynoir and transmisogynoir. But in my research, I find it really important for myself to highlight the voices of Black women and femmes. Historically, Black women and femmes were relegated to the margins of movements such as the Black Power movement and its artistic offshoot of the Black arts movement. And the kind of self-declared leaders of the Black arts movement, especially Amiri Baraka and Ed Bullins, created theatrical work that really revolved around themes of homophobia as well as misogyny, and actively did work to push Black women and femmes out of that arena. So that is why my work focuses specifically on Black women and femmes. So for this research, I use the work of 3 Black women and femme playwrights as case studies. Aziza Barnes, Katori Hall, and Erica Dickerson Dispenza. Aziza Barnes is an emerging playwright who made their theatrical debut with Blacks, a play that follows a day in the life of 3 Black women in Brooklyn, and they navigate personal and romantic relationships, health, death, and love. And the ideas of community care and mutual aid are kind of interwoven throughout the fabric of this play. When I'm analyzing this play, I tend to lean heavily on the work of Bell Hooks, who really asserts that friendships allow us to experience community in a way that allows us to have joy and lean into joy and resolve conflicts in a meaningful and intentional way. So in Blacks, the characters are only able to process the challenging life experiences that they have when they lean into their friendship and community with one another. The character of Octavia is kind of unable to process a potentially cancerous mole that she finds with her lover. And when her lover refuses to provide her emotional support for this traumatic event, Octavia is able to lean into her friends who drop everything that they have going on in the moment to be that support and be that community for her in the moment. The character of June is in a very unhealthy romantic partnership where her partner frequently cheats on her. And the juxtaposition of that harmful romantic relationship to the relationship that June has with her friends and with her community is used to show how romantic relationships can fail and where community can step in and fill that void. In Blacks as well, the characters rely on community intervention rather than police intervention to stop situations of violence. And this also plays into the idea of a lot of Black mutual aid, a lot of Black mutual aid societies that focus on community intervention rather than a more state intervention. So there's a situation where an unknown man and women are in a violent confrontation, and Octavia, June, and Amani step in, and they're able to step in and resolve that conflict because of their foundation with community. I next want to talk about the work of Katori Hall. Katori Hall has a truly expansive body of work, and it's greatly evolved over time as well. Much of her earlier work focused more heavily on the stories of Black women as well as on real events. She has a play called Our Lady of Kibeho that is based on the true story of a young girl in Rwanda who claimed to see the Virgin Mary and had visions of the Rwandan genocide before it actually happened. And probably her most well-known play, The Mountaintop, is a fictional depiction of Martin Luther King Jr.'s last night alive. Both of these plays and more of her early work incorporate aspects of tribal spiritualities into lived African-American experiences and are able to bridge multiple communities of the African diaspora together. Her 2015 play, Pussy Valley, was recently adapted into the TV series P Valley, and the story follows workers in a strip club. And in both the play and the series, the characters are only able to progress and successfully transition into the next phase of their lives and the next phase of their careers when they rely on one another. Whenever they try to silo themselves off and play into individualism, they fail. More recently, Katori Hall's work has expanded to incorporate more musical elements. The Hot Wing King won the 2021 Pulitzer Prize in Drama and follows the story of a Black gay male couple. And there's a specific scene in this play where Luther Vandross starts to play and the characters on stage sing together. And in a lot of reviews, critics are like, and then everybody in the audience started singing together. And it's really a beautiful moment of community response to music and how that can just be so healing for people and how that can bridge the gap between what you see on stage and what you experience off stage as an audience member. And finally, if we're to consider the future of what community care can look like in the theater, I want to turn to the work of Erica Dickerson Dispenza, who's an early career playwright and multidisciplinary artist. She created an installation titled A Salt-Rimmed Wound to act as a complementary piece to her play Shadowland, which revolves around Hurricane Katrina. This installation was in the lobby at the Public Theater where Shadowland was produced. And the installation featured a community altar, photographs, music, and interactive exhibits. And they all tied back to the theme of the play. And again, her work revolves around the devastation of Hurricane Katrina and the impact that it had on multiple generations of family. So her work deals with trauma in a very real and a very tangible way. And in offering this installation and this community altar, she really offered community care to the audience and allowed the audience to partake in a communal healing as they witness trauma on stage. And as a conclusion, I kind of want to take a step back and look at the idea of community care from a bit of a wider lens. And I want to consider, again, both what is happening on stage and what happens off the stage to the people who are actually making this art. In 2020, a group of theater workers came together to create We See You White American Theater. The group released a 31-page list of demands and called out the American theater industry for upholding systems of white supremacy and perpetuating systems of harm and violence against members of the global majority. And briefly, it's 31 pages, but the summary is community members really came together to say that the theater is a place of harm, it is a place of racism, and it is a place of inaccessibility and individualism. And when we think about how we can start to undo some of that harm and how we can start to rectify some of that harm, I think we can turn to what we see on stage in the work of Katori Hall and Erica Dickerson Dispenza and in the work of Aziza Barnes. These plays and these playwrights are showing us how we can better lean into community and how we can better be in support of one another. And if we are able to take the lessons that we are seeing on stage and that we are quite literally putting on stage for audience members to learn, if we as the theater industry as a whole take those lessons and resonate with them, I think we can slowly start to process a lot of the harm that has been done and slowly start to make amends for a lot of that harm. So I think I went a little bit over, but that's all I have. Thank you all for being here, and yeah.
This is like the politest conference I've ever been to in terms of people not hogging one another's time. It's really amazing. So we have 15 minutes for conversation and questions. Would it help me direct that? Yes.
Hi, my name is Gabby, and I have a bunch of questions, so I'll just ask one right now.
Let me give you the mic. Hold on.
So my first question is for, Joy. And in my own work, I also think a lot about vibe as kind of like an embodied way that people can use their feelings about like a context or a relationship, like to think about, like power dynamics and things like that. And so within like the framework that you shared with us, or like in your own experiences, like farming, like researching and things like that, how are you thinking about the relationship between that vibe in the framework and power as it's shared between people, folks exploiting, their positions of power? How does that play into the considerations of that framework?
Definitely vibe is a huge thing, not just when you're in communal space for people where you're safe or you have relative safety. But our somatic experience is, if you think about it, why I said sounds and a lot of things that are innate in us, but we've been so dismembered that we don't think about it, but really us being in tune with the vibe is really what's kept us safe, right? When you know that you feel like this person is out of pocket and not, you know what I'm saying? Like, like the vibe here, and if other people are experiencing that person and then no one is stepping up, who has some privilege to use, right? To the benefit of the other people who need that. So yeah, definitely the vibe is a huge thing, and in particular in keeping us safe in spaces, or when we know we can step forward and risk a little bit, or this is not a space where I have anything to risk because I'm gonna be trampled on the football field.
Yeah.
Like, what, you know what I mean? So that it is a huge thing, in every space. So yes, thank you.
On that question, is your vibe always correct initially, or can that change once you get to know a situation or people? Is it always like correct?
Well, oh, I should be. Sorry, thank you, you're getting work out.
You're gonna be running around.
What I'll say is, you have to trust yourself in all situations. Like, that is not something as a Black woman, Gen X, that I was taught.
Yeah.
So it did ignore a lot of when you're in, whether it's with a man or with, any other situation where you feel like I'm not necessarily safe, because I was taught that you just take whatever it is, or this is what you're supposed to do, and you do what you're supposed to do, regardless of whatever the situation is. Yes, you can be wrong, but I find that the more that you tune into what you're feeling, your own vibe, and the vibe in the space, and what's vibrating within you, that you're able to temper and get yourself to a place where you're like, oh yes, I've experienced this before. I know what this means. But as you are just starting to tune into that, yeah, you may be wrong. But in some senses, when,
So you're trusting yourself.
you have to trust yourself. I think for me, when I started this training, I'm also a certified coach, and my training started as in somatic work. And then I took it deeper to work for 2 years just in somatics. And I think that was the biggest revelation for me, is just realizing that I've been on this earth for 45 years and everything I have been told was not to trust myself. And it was always against my better judgment. And whenever I made my biggest mistakes in life, it was because I did not trust myself. And so I find that that was the thing that, where you find your peace. You don't need to look outside of yourself to know. And when I know that these people here also are my people, this is my community, we're taking care of each other. If I'm off, they're gonna put me in check. They're like, Joy, did you not feel that? Like, and I was like, oh yeah, I don't know where I was at that moment. I wasn't completely present. And so I think that's where your community also comes into it, because you're gonna be vibing the same thing. Like sometimes you can shoot that look across the room and you know, with your friend, you don't even have to say what it is. Like you know what's present in the space, you know, so I think that also helps the community that's also in tune with that as well. I'll do it.
Okay. My next question is for Kiana. I have been excited for your talk since they released the schedule. I'm a huge comic book nerd. Like I have the Infinity Gauntlet on my wallet. My partner like draws also. He like is working on a comic book right now. And so I have been, well, I haven't finished it yet, but there's this new manga. I think it's by Saturday Morning Comics. And it's like the first shonen manga to feature a Black girl like as the lead character in it. And so I've been wanting to do some research on it. But in the interim, like I too have been thinking about like how Black women and Black girls are represented in comic books. And so I know that, you know, during your 15 minutes, you didn't get to speak to that as much. So I was wondering if you could clue us into sort of like that more intersectional lens that you were taking to your work and realizing the ways that they were portrayed or not portrayed during this Black age of comics.
That's probably supposed to be my job.
Okay. So I really love that question because I also read manga too. I'm very nerdy. So I didn't know about that series. So now I will also be looking it up as well. So my research was split into two parts. The first part really understanding the 1990s and kind of the cultural era that was happening. Again, what I mentioned with the Black sitcoms and the movies. So this was just another part of that kind of culture. And then learning more just the inner workings of owning a comic book publishing company. So the controversies that I was talking about earlier is that there was infighting between the Black independent publishers because they were saying to each other, no, your work is not as good as mine. Like your like Milestone Media and Ania had beef. Milestone was not in charge of that. That was mostly Ania saying that Milestone sold out because they were affiliated with DC. So they're not actually accurate Black people representation. So that was the first part of my research. And understanding that, again, the Black community is not monolithic. So there are dissenting voices that need to be heard as well. The second part was looking at Black women representation. And at first I was like, I'm just gonna talk about every character that shows up, which is not a lot. And they're not heavily featured. And then my advisor was like, well, that's a little bit too much. There's a lot of characters that are kind of the same character. So I split it up into four categories: villains, love interest, limited to no roles. So literally they just show up and then they leave, or they say, wow, you're doing a great job, and then leave. Damsels in distress is also another one, and motherly roles. I think the biggest ones were of course, love interest in motherly roles. And that is basically to continue to uplift Black men, but those characters were just romantic or platonic love. They really didn't have anything sort of depth after that. They're like, that's my mom, and my mom's gonna continue to support me. And she's like, I'm a mother and I'm a wife. And you're like, but what else? So an example of that was that in Brotherman, they introduced his mother in the last 2 issues, and his father is working with the Black Panther Party, and she's currently pregnant with their second child, But the father is like doing all this activism and he just comes home and she's like, I made dinner for you, honey. And you're like, okay, what else? Like, I understand you're pregnant, so there's only so much you can do. And then the father gets arrested. And so she's kind of that fatherly role for a bit, but that's not explored at all. Like, how did she take a step into that role to be like, I have to make sure that my son is getting what he needs, as well as my newborn getting what he needs while my husband is currently arrested for things that are out of my control. It skips for 10 years, like a 10-year time skip, and then she's again, I think she's depicted doing her daughter's hair, and that is the only time you see her after that. And I'm like, what is your story? I just want to know. Some love interests kind of just show up, and then they're like, I really am in love with you. And I'm like, there has been no development. This is the first time you met. What do you mean? And that's just kind of like the Black male patriarchy. Like the woman is like a extension of their masculinity rather than characters themselves. So I really go into depth about that and split it up to the different categories. And I want to continue that research as well, because it's not just those series that I looked at. There's way more series that are out there. I didn't even touch milestone media at all. So I don't know why I gave it to you.
Yeah, I can run.
Okay.
We can take our
I don't need, I'm pretty loud. Okay. I just like to ask October Grace, if you could elaborate, about the Wilkerson project where you said that you work.
Yeah, absolutely. Shameless plug. Thank you, Mom. by the way. It's my shameless plug. We have a table outside, if you want to learn even more about the Wilkerson project. But we are a Black research project based out of the University of the South, which is a very interesting place in Sewanee, Tennessee, up in the mountains. And the university was founded to educate future slave owners. So definitely a lot of Confederacy and eventually lost cause in our founding. And so we do research on the local Black history and the Black neighborhood that's being slowly gentrified in the area called St. Mark's. If anyone was a part of their presentation this morning on the Sewanee Praises Project, they're working on memorializing the African American cemetery there. And the project that I specifically do that inspired me to do the digital archive for my own research is called Locating Slavery's Legacies. And we're currently working with 21 or 22 college campuses around the American South, including William and Mary, to document and catalog all of their lost cause and Confederate memorials on their campuses. So really looking at how higher education has influenced and helped spread the narrative of the lost cause. So yes, that's the work that I've been doing for the last 3 years. Yeah.
Thank you, October Small.
I can project too.
Okay.
Yeah, great. Yeah, October, I was really looking forward to your presentation. And I guess I wanted to hear more about the database or the digital archive that you've created. Looks like you're very sparse. I work for the Virginia Department of Historic Resources, but a lot of my, in my private time, when I do have any, I like to document and map African-American neighborhoods that were displaced by urban renewal in Richmond, Virginia. A lot of my family members were displaced, and there are just so many communities that have been wiped away that some of the work that I do for the state is actually helping communities recover their narratives. But if people can't point to where they existed, then that makes it harder sometimes. So I collect a lot of pictures, a lot of maps and whatnot, and I would love to get to the next level of like archiving it, but making it accessible to people. So just want to hear more about your archive, the platform you use, how long.
Yeah, absolutely. That's the part that I didn't get to geek out about.
Yeah, geek away. We've got a couple minutes.
Okay. So I use the platform Omeka S to build my database. Oh, I might need Sarah to help me. Oh, there it is. Never mind. So I use the platform Omeka S. Again, I thankfully got training from my job at the Brotherman project to do that. So it is a bit of a learning curve, but we figured it out, and we have some non-techie savable people on our team to call out my boss, and he learned it, so I think anyone can. And what I focused on was digitizing the newspapers that I found. So most of my primary sources were white newspapers, which have their own media bias, but they were also something called clipping files. So for anyone who are not historians, basically an archivist before digital newspapers and websites would sit down with a daily newspaper, figure out what they thought would be historically relevant in the future, cut it out and paste it and archive it. So there's a bit of media bias, not just from who's writing the article, but also like what presumably a white archivist would think is important. So there's that limitation. But I decided to do the newspapers anyway, because it's the only thing that I have currently. And so you can see they're all listed here. I have them as a filter. How to explain this? So Omeka S has this thing called linked open data, where you can have items kind of speak to each other and talk to each other and link to each other. So the links that I decided to create that I thought would be the most helpful is a publisher. So again, if you want to trace who's saying what and what the media bias is. So if you go to the newspapers, you can click on who published the newspaper and it will filter it for you. The other thing is organization. So again, there are multiple organizations at work happening, the Black Knights, and then they turn into the Black Panther Party. There's also civil rights organizations that I decided to collect to, again, try to tell that story about how civil rights organizations worked with Black Power organizations. So you can click on the Chattanooga Black Panther Party, for example, and every newspaper that has mentioned them or talk about them will pop up. So if you just want to trace one organization throughout the primary sources, that is there. The other thing I decided to collect was people. I was finding that it's very hard to just know who these people are and look them up since they're not memorialized very well. And so I thought the site would be a way to give a full biography for a person and again, be able to trace them throughout the database. So every person is an individual item that I find. So this is Ralph Moore, who I was talking about earlier, who's the chairman of the Chattanooga Black Panthers. And so you can see his full biography here. If there's links out to learn more about him on what I could find online. And then again, every time he's mentioned in a newspaper, I tag him. So that way, when you click on his name, every newspaper that he's in pops up and you can trace him throughout the primary sources. And again, like I mentioned, the organizations are here. So if you're just interested in one specific organization, you can click on that, learn more about them, and then also the other people in that organization. And again, these are clickable people that you can click on and then learn more about them. Anything else? Last thing that might be pretty important is that I'm going to speak to your mapping part, is that I'm starting to think about ways to map this project. Omeka S does have a mapping feature, so that is helpful. And again, what I do is as soon as they are mentioned, in this one. So as soon as I mention, or as soon as a newspaper mentions a location, I make it an item and then tag it. So like Brainerd High School, like we were talking about earlier, is a location in my database. So you can click on Brainerd High School, learn more about it. There it is on the map if you want to see where it is in Chattanooga. And then again, every single newspaper that they're mentioned in will pop up. So you can trace a person or an organization or a location throughout time in the newspapers that are in the database. So it's still growing and changing, but that's the model so far.
That's great. I'm realizing as I'm sitting here that I think I made up that we had 15 minutes left. I think I lied about that, didn't I? Yeah, we actually didn't, but since it's the last one of the day, we sort of did. So thank you for staying anyway. This is why I should never be trusted to be chair. But thank you all for sticking around, and if you want to talk to them more, I'm sure they'd be happy to do that. So thank you, Jessica, from afar. Thanks everyone.